I'd like to call the Highway and Buildings Committee meeting to order for Thursday, June 16, 2020. And before we have a roll call, I'd like to say a few words about our chairman who was. I had the utmost respect for George Washington. I considered him a friend, and I also considered him my mentor. And he died during this pandemic, and I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. He was here one meeting, and then we never saw each other again. But I want to tell you a little story about Mr. Washington. When I was appointed to this board 3 years ago, they told me it wasn't partisan. I was appointed by the Republicans, and I'd known George for 40 years. And so I asked George to join me for a cup of coffee. I'd like to talk to him. And so George, being the spendthrift that he is, and me being the spendthrift that I am, I bought him a senior coffee at the McDonald's on East Court Street, and we talked. And we talked about family. We even talked about employees in the county, who should keep an eye on, who you shouldn't, grand man. And then I asked the real question. George, I've been told that this is not a political board. What do you think? Is it or isn't it? And he said, it used to be, but he says in the last several years, it isn't. And then he made this comment. He said, Ron, I can assure you that you and I will not always agree, probably most of the time, but not always. But I can also assure you that if we disagree, you will vote for what you think is best for Kankakee County, and I voted for what I think is best for Kankakee County. And I said, I'm in. And I'd like to relay that we are all working for Kankakee County. Differences of opinion are great, but George had it right. He was a good man, and when he spoke, and he didn't speak always, but when he spoke, you had to listen. And there were many times he sat behind me in these desks, but he was way in front of me in terms of leadership. And there were many times when I didn't know how to vote that I was glad that George voted first, because I just voted whatever George did. Because I knew that when he voted, he was not voting for a personal agenda, but he was voting for Kankakee County. That's the kind of man we lost. He was a good man.
Thanks, John.
Roll call.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Tholen? Ms. Polk?
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Ms. Peters?
Present.
Mr. Zenz?
Present.
Ms. Haas? Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Featherling?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Dunnell? Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Seroy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The minutes for June 11, 2020. Do I have a motion approval? Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Eckhoff. Are there any comments or questions regarding those minutes? All those approved. We don't have to take a vote on that. We can just, where there's enough, we have to vote each individually? Or can we just say aye? There's only five.
We're supposed to do roll call under the current code of the governor's orders.
Roll call vote, please.
I apologize.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Mr. Zenz?
Aye.
Ms. Haas? Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, via Zoom, take the floor, please.
Good. I have no biddings or lettings today. If I would have had a bidding or letting, I would have been there in person. So all I have today are my pay estimates. We've got a little over $1 million here to approve. The first one I have is for the Kankakee County General Maintenance, payable to Gallagher Asphalt. This is for hot mix picked up at the plant with our trucks, and that amount is $2,026.92. Next is our Kankakee County General Maintenance for 2020 Supplement 3. This is payable to Grasso Construction Company. This is for oil and chip work that's been going on county highways in the county, and that amount is $116,284.75. Next is for Kankakee County General Maintenance for 2020. This is payable to BCNA Prairie Materials. This is for chips picked up at the quarry with our trucks, and that amount is $97.53. Next is for Kankakee County General Maintenance for 2020, payable to Vulcan Construction Materials. This is for road mix and chips picked up at the quarry with our trucks, and that amount is $10,903.45. Next is Essex Road District for their 2020 general maintenance payable to Grasso Construction Company. This is for oil and chip work that's been going on in the township, and that amount is $40,972.22. Next is for Limestone Road District for their 2020 general maintenance. This is payable to Grasso Construction Company for oil and chip work done in Limestone Township, and that amount is $102,338.23. Next is Auto Road District for their 2020 general maintenance payable to Grasso Construction Company for oil and chip work that was done in the township, and that amount is $122,755.48. Next is Salina Road District for their 2020 general maintenance. This is payable to Grasso Construction Company for oil and chip work done in the township, and that amount is $61,898.67. Next is Rockville Township for their 2020 general maintenance, and this is payable to BCNA Prairie Materials. This is for road mix picked up at the quarry with their trucks, and that amount is $2,768.57. Next is Essex Road District for their 2020 general maintenance supplement 1. This is for road mix picked up at the quarry with their trucks, payable to Vulcan Materials, and that amount is $32,832.26. Next is Auto Road District for their 2020 general maintenance. This is payable to Vulcan Construction Materials. This is for road mix picked up at the quarry with their trucks, and that amount is $542.11. And last is for Kankakee County 2020 general maintenance non-MFT. This is payable to Kankakee Valley Construction Company. This is for the overlays that are going on Highland Road and Vandercar Road, and that amount is $654,450.57.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to Mr. Long? Is there a second to Mr. Smith? I will change Mr. Smith to Ms. Polk. It's the rule of the committee chair. It's going to my head already. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the engineer's pay estimates. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Mr. Zenz?
Aye.
Ms. Haas? Mr. Carrico?
He's muted.
I'll come back to him.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, buildings report. Mr. Andrews.
I have a question for Mark. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Snipes.
Just one is a comment, the other one is a question. Mark, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, how you doing?
Good.
I don't know who, between you, the state, or the city, that I reached out to for that bridge to be repaired. I see now it's being repaired. Don't know who was ultimately held responsible, but thank you. It was, debris that was falling on people's car that made it dangerous, and they finally, on River Street, going up under that that bridge going west of River towards McBroom's what is that? His little,
See,
I
it's
don't want to call it a
CN
highway, but yeah, the it's finally being touched up and something's done. So I just say thank you to whomever finally addressed that issue. And then number two, with the additional motor fuel tax that we have in the county, have we earmarked additional things that we're going to accomplish this year?
I am going to be working on a plan. The state sold the bonds that were part of the capital program, and so we are getting they're called Rebuild Illinois funds, and I'm finalizing those numbers, and I am trying. I have several projects I'd like to complete with those funds, and I'll be presenting that to the board here in the near future. Those have to be earmarked within a year after we receive them, and they have to be spent by July of 2025.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Mr. Ant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, this is a refresher for me because I got asked about it again, and I want to make sure I had all the details. Some other board members may have this situation in their district, maybe not. I've got a road out at the very edge of my district. It's right along a Baker Creek. It's called River Lane, but it's in I would say it's an unplatted subdivision, I believe, and the road is owned by the residents. It's not a county road. Are you familiar with that road?
Yes, I am.
Now, the question I have is, because it's in such disrepair, the people out there, I'm not gonna say they can't afford it, but it's expensive to redo that road. The question I have is there an issue with the county somehow acquiring that? And just for other people's, I'm not saying do it, but would we have to widen that out and build culverts? It's not just an easy, let's just fix the road. We'd have to actually redo it per all of the engineering rationales that are out there. Is that correct? I mean, it's not just
what would happen with that, the residents have petitioned the township to take it over, but the law says that it has to be to the standards, to minimum standards, which there is not enough right-of-way out there on that road to construct a road to the standards that are required. Those minimum standards, the road has to have a 16-foot surface, 2 foot of shoulder, and ditches on each side. And there's not enough right-of-way out there to construct that. Now, I understand their situation, but yeah, the township really, according to the law, doesn't have to take that road over unless there's a minimum amount of right-of-way and those improvements are completed with that. Now, I don't know if the township has helped them before, but that's what the law says.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Rogers, does that right-of-way required have to be in the form of an easement, or would the residents have to sell a portion of their property for that easement?
Well, we looked at it one time, and it would have to come from both sides. So there's one parcel on the south side, and then all the residences are on the north side. And so there would have to be right-of-way acquired on both sides.
Thank you.
One side of that, I believe, is floodplain, though, because it's next to the creek. So does that add an extra level of problem as far as acquiring right-of-way in a creek?
It's not really a matter of acquiring right-of-way. It's when you come to construct. That's when you have to go through the extra permit process.
Okay. All right.
Mark, in that area, would that not, I don't know, when that area was, I guess, designed and somebody had to approve it, I guess was it part of the city or someone, did they not take a lot of that into consideration when they plotted that, I guess, as a subdivision?
You will find around the county quite a few subdivisions that were platted very early, pre-1950s, and the ordinances at that time didn't require the things that we require now to build a subdivision. There are a lot of private roads that this isn't the only one. There are a lot out in Momence along the river. a few in Limestone. There are these private roads out there that don't have a highway authority, and in fact, the plats actually say that this shall not be a public road, and that it is, belongs to the residents of the subdivision. So it's not uncommon back then that there were no ordinances or standards that they had to build these to.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Anders.
I'm up.
Yes.
All right, good morning. Facility dude report for the month of June. We had 203 work orders. That's a pretty busy month. As everyone's aware, we're usually, 160 to 180 work orders. So certainly a busy month with regard to work orders. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the financial report that you have in front of you. You can see the comparison fiscal year 19 versus 20. Currently, we're about $2,000 behind where we were at this time last year. Certainly proud to report that when you consider pay increases for employees, COVID-related expenses, et cetera. So to be, behind where we were this point last year, I'm certainly happy to report that. As I try to hold the line on expenses the best I can. Later on in the report, we're going to talk about some expenses that are coming out at Public Safety and Jerome Combs that are going to be unavoidable. They're, life safety type issues, and they're things that are going to need to get done. So, next few months we might go over a little bit, but, want you to be aware I do my best to hold the line on expenses at all times. So if there's any questions on the financial report, happy to answer them. You can see under miscellaneous supplies, line item 56,850, we're $10,000 ahead where we were at this time last year. Undoubtedly, some of that expense is a change in how I'm coding from 52,100, but some of that is obviously going to be, COVID-related supplies that we've had to purchase. So. Are there any questions with regard to the financial report?
I have one. It looks good. Do you think we're going to end up this way, or you see some hidden things that may be coming at us?
I think later on in the report, when I get to my building report specifically out at JCDC, we'll go over some things that are coming down the line that will probably make us, nothing huge, but we may go over a little bit.
Okay, so. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Snipes.
Given that foresight, have you kind of included that? Because I know we go into a new budget year going from November to December, so that they are aware in the finance department so that they can, because you kind of have like a variable budget. Even though you have a concrete budget, it varies because of issues that may arise. So since there's a foresight.
Yeah, as you know, my budget is basically the bare minimum. It doesn't really have any monies in there for, items. We replace things when they break. That's kind of been standard operating procedure now for the last couple of years. But yeah, I'll certainly inform Chairman Wheeler. We speak daily, finance department, we'll make sure everybody's aware.
Are there, Mr. Wheeler?
Just one point of clarity, or at least the board should know, anything COVID related, we have up to $1.1 million allocated to us for reimbursement. So believe me, we have special codes in our accounting system so we can identify all of these things. So anytime somebody in any of our buildings has purchased something, even down to employee hours that have been dedicated. So these two new custodians that are dedicated basically to the courthouse because of the way they have to have juries running now, those are going to be able to be recouped, those costs. So what you see here, he's still ahead of the game, if you will, but it may offset some of these other things that we're seeing coming down the pipe.
That's what I missed was the pay increases, the COVID supplies, and then the 2 new employees. So when you add all that up to still be behind where we were at this point last year, it's looking pretty good at this point.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Continue.
All right, moving on to the building report. Yesterday, as many of you are aware, the LED light replacement was approved at the county board meeting. So I've already contacted Constellation Energy, our representative with them. They're going to start working on the agreements with Constellation Energy and then General Energy, who's going to actually be performing the work on the project. So there're going to be a lot of coordination with this one. We finished up all the stuff at the courthouse just in time to jump into another one. Coordination at the courthouse, obviously a secure facility, the jails, both secure facilities, not to mention, COVID related issues that we're going through right now. So having, outsiders, contractors, if you will, in the buildings is going to take some coordination, and some safety procedures are going to need to be in place. So I plan to start working on that with correction staff, courthouse staff, et cetera, over the next couple weeks to start getting everything scheduled on that. So are there any questions on the LED project?
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did we determine Constellation as the payee, if you will? I know it's off of savings, but I'm assuming that's who our vendor is.
Yeah, I've been trading voicemails with Kim Weaver, who's our rep with Constellation. She's going to be getting me the agreements. Part of the agreement is going to be obviously they're our current energy provider, but they're going to continue to be our energy provider for the term of the agreement, which is obvious. So she's going to be getting me that information. But yeah, Constellation will be paying General Energy on our behalf. So we'll be signing our contract with Constellation.
Okay. And just the last thing, I know it probably goes without saying at this point, but we cannot get COVID in our jail.
Oh,
we need to come up with protocols for these people going in.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I won't be coming up with the protocols. I'm going to leave that to the sheriff, the health department at the jail, as to how they want to do that, and then I'll make sure that we follow it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Snipes, last time. Go ahead.
Don't want to add anything to your to the weight you already carry, but I would be interested because a lot of times you in leadership you have to make critical decisions, and that's what your staff and when you're hiring staff or in any of your operations. I would like to see at some point a cost comparison to if we would have outsourced this, what this would cost versus what the actual cost is, because I think that speaks not only to your leadership but to what you're getting done. And it's tangible, but it's an intangible process that I don't think no one ever sees unless they have something tangible before their eyes. And I know it's out there, but when you hire someone to fix maybe I'm just using a word, refrigerations and air conditioning, versus if we would have outsourced it compared to that cost out there. I'm sure, because when I see a lot of stuff that you do, there's a lot of considerable savings that I just don't think, I know we give you credit, but how would I put it? I don't think we give you the due credit that you do on an everyday basis to minimize a lot of costs and stay within this restrictive budget.
Thank you. Yeah, anything, just so you know, the way we operate, anything that needs repair is first looked at by maintenance staff. And once our maintenance staff's not able to perform the repair, then a call is made. So we never just say, hey, we've got a air handler issue, let's just call up a vendor. I have staff members that are capable of handling most repairs, and they handle a lot of the repairs. But once it's deemed to be over their head, then we got to make a call. We have no choice. So I appreciate your comment.
My personal opinion is I would rather see Mr. Andrews spend his time saving us money rather than telling us how much money he has saved. So from my personal standpoint, I'd like you to continue your job, and I'm really not interested in how much money you're saving. Just continue to do the fine job you're doing.
Will do. Thank you.
you.
Moving on to 189 here. We've talked about it at every board meeting. The air handlers are old. We had a lot of repairs this year. Compressors, coils, cleaning of the coils requires a lot of work. I think we've got 16 air handlers here in this building, and they're all very old. So, you know, the maintaining of all those takes a lot of time and effort and energy. Next week, I've got an architect coming out to certify our fire escape on the north side of the building. That's something that is due. He'll be out next week to certify that. Cleaning of the building. Carl here in the building has done a fantastic job. I haven't received, you know, any complaints. This week we've talked a lot about cleaning, and just so you know, the way we look at cleaning in the maintenance department is, you know, general cleaning. You know, there's a difference between general cleaning and detail cleaning. Detail cleaning is going to be corners, it's going to be under sinks, you know, general cleaning is flat surfaces, handrails, doorknobs, that sort of stuff. And with the priority right now with COVID related issues, you know, we're extremely focused on general cleaning, flat surfaces, what's getting touched on a daily basis. So, you know, there's always, you walk around these buildings, there's always going to be things that you can find, you know, maybe in the corners, but, you know, I'm happy to report, you know, the job that Carl has done in this building has been outstanding, and I just wanted to make sure he gets some credit. So that's really it here at 189. Moving on to the courthouse. Again, we've got 2 new employees at the courthouse that have been, you know, extremely focused and diligent on, you know, cleaning the handrails. I was over there the other day, actually yesterday, ran into a bailiff. He mentioned to me, he said, you know, this place has never looked so good. And I said, thank you. You know, we made quite an effort here. You know, I also have an employee dedicated now to detail cleaning at the courthouse. That's going to be your, you know, the corners of the bathrooms. That's going to be those areas that, you know, when you run a mop, don't get touched all the time. So I had one employee there yesterday going through bathrooms. She's going to be back again on Friday to continue to do that. So we're going to continue to strive to not only hit all the COVID related cleaning issues, but, you know, really, you know, get down and dirty, if you will, no pun intended, you know, cleaning, you know, the corners and some of those places that don't get hit all the time. We also had a roof leak on the north side. Many of you recall a couple years ago, we replaced the roof that's going to be around the rotunda up top. The roof, the lower roof, if you will, looking at the courthouse, is in bad shape. We had a roof leak on Monday. We had some rain over the weekend, obviously. Had a contractor out bright and early Monday morning. We've got the leak fixed. We've got the ceiling tile fixed. But that's something in the coming years. I'm not a roofer. I'm no expert, but I would think within the next 2 to 3 years, you know, we're going to have to do something with the lower roof at the courthouse. So just want to plant that in the back of your mind. The compressor, if you recall, last year we had a lightning strike on the east side, took out one of our compressors. It was replaced early this year. I think it was in March. That compressor has gone out again. We've got 2 compressors on this unit. We're running off 1. It is covered under warranty, which is good news. But I can't replace the compressor until the weather cooperates. If it's going to be 95 degrees, I can't shut down the unit. They won't be able to conduct business. So that's something that we're trying to limp it along until hopefully late summer, early fall, that we can get that replaced, and the contractor is honoring the warranty, so shouldn't be any more expense on our end for the compressor. That's it at the courthouse. Moving on to the annex. Just a couple days ago, the chiller system sprung a leak. We had water shooting all over in the basement at the annex. Got that fixed the same day, just due to age. It was a nipple on the chiller system, so we had a contractor out. We fixed that. Speaking to Tom Latham, he would like an intercom. We have an intercom right now at the back door of the courthouse, at the annex. He would like an intercom added to the front door of the annex. Right now we've got the doors are locked, so he wants to be able to communicate with anybody that comes up to that door, speak whatever business they have, and then they would go let them in accordingly. So I got an estimate for that. It's $1,232.45, pretty reasonable. I don't see any issue with it. That's something that I plan to do unless there's any objection from anybody here.
Mr. Anders, did you have a question earlier?
Well, yeah, just a question about the compressor. Is that something that could happen on the weekend?
It could, however, the contractor has asked to not do it on a weekend because they have to eat they're going to cover the labor. So they said, if at all possible, we'd like to do it on a weekday during normal hours. And as long as it doesn't negatively affect, the temperature in the building and the one compressor continues to operate as it should, I don't have an issue with it. I like to keep a good working relationship with them, and it not going to cause us any hardship. So I'm going to try to work with them the best I can.
We might consider that if the weather's turning bad or something, that we could pay that overtime difference to get it done if we got a lot of hot weather coming in.
Right.
Something to consider.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the old jail. As usual, a lot of issues, plumbing related, drain related issues. If anybody's been over there, I know Andy has. The city fixed a collapsed sewer line that we've been complaining about for years. We told them we had a leak. Not years, I should say, months probably. But they did fix that. They excavated, they replaced the line, they put the asphalt back in. They've got some wood forms over there right now that they got to still come back and pick up. Not the city, but the contractor that the city hired. So that's replaced. So I'm hoping a lot of the drain related issues that we've had there will now be rectified. Now, Jerome Combs, this is the list for Jerome Combs. Air handler cleaning, minor air handler repairs, which are pretty normal. The freezer froze up again. We consistently fight the freezer out there. It's been repaired many times. It's due to leaving the door open a lot of times to the freezer. So we're trying to keep a better eye on that. But that has froze up. That's since been repaired. We've been really working on, to my point on the detail cleaning, we've been stripping and waxing floors out there some of those floors out there I don't think have been stripped or waxed in 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm happy to report that we're working the stripping and waxing of floors into our, weekly agenda. We had a minor insulation repair for some duct work that was completed a few days ago. The phase 2 inverter is one of the items that I wanted to talk to you about. Sheriff Downey ordered me to replace the inverter. What it is, it's a Surelight inverter system, and it consistently overheats, and we have to keep a fan on it to keep it cool. And what happens when we lose power, the Surelight inverter picks up the power, powers up the emergency lights until the generators come on, generators fire up properly, the inverter shuts down, and then now we have light again, obviously. But that inverter is it's original to the building. We've had contractors come out and look at it, and it needs to be replaced. Like I said, it's overheating. It's a safety issue. Not to mention what it powers. It powers the safety lights, the emergency lights out at the building. I received 2 bids for the work. One was $39,000, one was $29,000. So that is something that is coming down the pipeline. Again, it's something that it needs to be done. The sheriff wants it done. So that's something that is going to be done here, hopefully within the next couple months. I just want to make the committee aware. The phase 1 inverter, we're having issues with it as well. Similar age, of course. This inverter has 40 batteries in the unit. We have voltage issues, and what this inverter does is it picks up the critical power supply at the jail. So any of the cameras and master control are on this inverter. So when power goes down, the battery system picks it up. The cameras stay active until the generators come online. The inverter then shuts down. Battery life, I'm told from our contractors, is going to be about 5 years. These batteries are at 5 years. There's 40 of them. They did a PM on the unit. They found one battery is completely dead, no power at all, which is what's affecting our voltage issues right now. So we have two options. This is something that, unlike the SureLight system, this is something that, we have a couple options here. Due to the age of the batteries, they recommend 40 battery replacement at $8,559, or we can replace one battery for $961.88. And I'd just like to know what the committee's pleasure is on this one.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Wes, if you replace the one, it's going to take the power away from the other ones.
What do you mean? It won't take the system will work.
It'll drain the other batteries.
It
the
could,
other
yes.
batteries are going to drain this one down until they come up to that power.
Right.
And if you're doing 900 for one and you get 40 for 8,000.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
I know what I'd like to do, but
you need to replace all the batteries.
They all need to be replaced.
I agree.
I don't know where the money's coming from, but if you got in your budget, they all need to be replaced.
See, this is one of those things that, like we talked about earlier, these are items that I don't have in my budget. So I mean,
so where are you going to get this money?
At the end of the year, I think you folks approve my budget, so that's why I want to make you aware of it. So,
Mr. Wheeler, do you have any comments on that money?
Almost like the coroner, you don't know how many autopsies you're going to do in a year. In our case, we don't know what's going to break during the year. So the way we approach this is try to save all you can during the year for situations just like this. And so at the end of the year, what we always do is we take a look at all of the budgets, and you can't predict what's going to happen on the maintenance side of things. Preventative maintenance, we're in reactive maintenance until we get a bunch of money in the bank. So I'd say we have to do all of them.
So do we have to comment on this, or can he just do all of them?
Well, you can just do all of them, and it goes through on the bill. You can go through all the bills, and
we don't have to vote on this or anything like that. Okay, that's great.
So
I think is that the consensus of the group that we do all? See what happens, Mr. Long.
Okay. Wes, is there another option out there? I mean, you're going to spend $9,000, give or take. Is there another option? 2006 technology versus 2020 technology?
As far as the entire system?
Well, at least the one you're spending the most money on, the phase one.
The phase one inverter to switch out, and this isn't doing the whole system. This is just strictly doing the batteries.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if you did the one battery like Mr. Hess says, you're going to have the new batteries with the old batteries, and so I believe the correct course of action is to go with all the new batteries.
And I'm with you on that. But my question is, if you're going to spend $9,000, is there newer technology out there that $9,000 that could be applied to get us to a better place?
I don't think so, because you'd be looking, you'd have to replace the whole system at that point. So I would say no.
Okay.
It might be worth checking on, though. He's got a point.
Yeah. I mean, I can look into it, but this is just the battery replacement. Yeah. It's a component of a much larger system. So to do that, I can, if that's the committee's pleasure, I can ask the question and see.
Well, we may not do it, but it's a thought that needs to be pursued.
Sure.
It's worthwhile looking at.
Understand.
Yeah, asking.
Yeah. I can do that, definitely.
Are there any other comments? Your time is up. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Andrews.
That was my purpose when I said, we're looking at cost comparison. There's a lot that he has to look at, a lot that can be saved or whatever. My thing is that not only, we might know it internally, but when we sit in these committee meetings, we want this community to know it as well, because a lot of our people save a lot of money given their duties and responsibilities, and them stepping outside that scope and going and beyond that border of normality. It's incredible, and that's, if nothing else, they know, because they used to accuse, well, y'all just spend. Yeah. No, we are very conservative, and when we do spend, it's because we have to spend, and that's the thing that's my overall concern when it comes to letting your community to know that we do. If we spend, we spend, but if it's the last ditch effort in order to before we go out and spend another tax-paying dollar, and that's what I want the community to glean when we are making a lot of these decisions.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Couple more things and I'll be done. We've had some issues with the fire alarm panels at the jail as well. We had one go down. We contacted our service provider. They came out, determined that the panel needed to be replaced. It again was original to the building. We have several fire panels in the building, and as is true for it seems like everything we do out there, when you replace one thing with 2020 technology, it doesn't talk to the rest of the stuff in the building that is, when was Jerome Combs built? 2002, 3, 5 technology. So, you know, not surprising. The $3,500 was what it cost to replace the panel. It's going to cost another roughly $2,000 to bring everything else up to date. Small price to pay, I believe, to get everything up to date and speaking to each other as it should. So that's something that I've already approved. That's going to be happening to get all the fire alarm systems, the panels, the annunciators, everything up to current technology and speaking to one another. The camera system is basically done. We're at the point of basically plug and play at this point. We got a couple electrical outlets that need to be installed to finalize everything. That was a heck of a project, a very large project, and one that I'm proud to say is very near completion. So that's all I got.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Andrews? Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business. Anybody have any old business?
I have a question.
Mr.
Tree limb.
Yes, sir.
Did the committee probably should know about the tree limb?
Yeah. Well, when was that?
Day before yesterday, maybe?
The days are running together. I think it was Anita had contacted me. Andy had noticed it out the window of his office. We had a tree limb fall on Court Street. The city of Kankakee was gracious enough to clean it up for us, which was fantastic because they can do it much quicker than we can. They've got the equipment, the trucks, and the more manpower. But they cleaned it up. It was blocking Court Street. I believe it even hit a car. I did not see the car when I'd got over there. By the time I'd got there, I'd walked in the back door of the courthouse, walked out the front, and they had already had it cleaned up and gone. Worth noting, that's the second tree that we've lost. Not tree. We lost one tree and then we lost a limb. But yeah, that did happen earlier this week, and that's all I know. Maybe you and Anita might know more as to damages and things like that.
The car was a county employee's car, so we're looking into that as far as.
Those are usually considered act of God. Notify the insurance carrier, but
yeah, we're in the process. I just thought the committee should know because it was on one of our properties.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments regarding Wes's report? Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Andrews.
Yep.
Is there any old business that needs to come before this committee? Any new business that needs to come to this committee?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Let me get to the end. Is there any other business that needs to come before this committee? Mr. Hess moved to adjourn. And
Peters.
I'm sorry, Craig. Mrs. Peters, second. We are adjourned. We need a roll call vote.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Mr. Zenz?
Aye.
Ms. Haas? Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.